All right, Kelly, you got us streaming, I see.
Yep, let me just hit that record button. All right, we're good to go, Mayor.
Okay, we'll give another minute here. Looks like we got all the city council members. Marcus will not be joining us tonight.
Good evening, Sean.
Can I make a quick plug?
Good
We have 97 people subscribing to YouTube. We need 3 more, and we can then kind of go to a full-on branded YouTube channel for our city. So if anyone hasn't subscribed to our YouTube channel, it'll give us ability to actually have a named URL location for this, so it's a little easier to find. Plus, we can brand it a little bit better. So just throwing that plug out there.
All right. Get some city revenue off that thing.
Yeah.
All right, well, it is 7 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and start this city council regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 10th, 2020, and this meeting is going to be via Zoom, and it is a regular meeting. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, we've got a flag behind Kim. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent, thank you. And Kelly, can you give us a roll call, please?
Councilmember Daughtry.
I'm here.
Councilmember Peter Shagan.
Present.
Councilmember Frederick.
Here.
Councilmember Dickinson. Councilmember Dickinson, I think you're muted.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Jorstad.
Present.
Councilmember Ewing.
Present.
Councilmember Tagent. I understand he's absent.
Get a motion to dismiss.
I move to excuse Councilmember Tagent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, perfect. Vice President, Council Vice President, Peter Shagan, can you give us an agenda? And before you do that, I think that we can get rid of action items. So K, L, and O will actually all be done within the public hearing items. So I think just to clean up the agenda, we can get rid of K, L, and O. And I would ask that we strike action item N for further contemplation after this evening.
For a later date discussion? Or
That's correct.
okay, so just deleting from tonight's agenda.
Correct.
Does anyone else
For
have any
workshop?
questions or concerns?
Would you repeat those? So K, L, and O, and
And then N is in Nora.
okay. For
So
further
Mayor, is that
discussion
your
later.
intent to have a discussion on item N at a workshop to be determined?
So we could put it at a workshop. I don't like the contract as it is. And tonight y'all will get the outflow briefing. So I wanted you to have some time to digest that before we went into a new contract to go through.
Okay.
Councilmember Peter Shagan, one other change, the FBI LEDA award is going to have to be rescheduled. Our presenter is stuck in a snowstorm on I-90, so he will not be attending.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh. All right. Anyone else have any comments or questions, concerns with the agenda other than those 4 or 5 changes?
I move to approve the agenda as discussed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda for November 10th with the changes as mentioned by the mayor and the city clerk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Didn't hear anybody. Okay, with that, Mr. Mayor, we have an approved agenda.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary. Okay, so with that, we will move into citizens' comments. And how we do citizens' comments, if you're new to the council meeting, is we open up the floor at this time for citizens' comments from any of our citizens who wish to speak. And there's a 3-minute time limit. And what I do is I'll set my alarm for 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So when you hear the alarm, you'll know you have 10 seconds to wrap it up. And what I do is I'll look for a hand raised or a first name said in case you're not visible to me. And with that, I'll open the floor to citizens' comments. Is there anybody with citizens' comments tonight? Raise your hand or say your first name. Liz, do you have some comments? You're gonna have to unmute yourself for me.
Hey, so I'm Liz. This is Donnie.
Okay.
We are the citizens at 2206 Hartford Drive. I'm sure you remember me with all the emails. We just want to we heard you say something you don't like the contract that has been posted that we've already looked at a few times. But we just want to say that it's really important to us that the city takes this, really seriously, because it's a huge issue and it really affects our life and everyone who lives along Hartford Drive. We have a few other people who might be joining this meeting who also live on our road, but in our eyes, it's just unacceptable. And we have absolutely no power to stop it. We can't protect our property. There's nothing that we could do to protect our house. And when this happens, we have to leave. So, thank you for taking it seriously. And we really hope that you guys move forward, as quickly as possible with any solutions. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Liz. Great comments. Anybody else with some comments for tonight? I've got iPad. I think that's Sue. iPad 1213. Sue.
Yes, this is Sue Fernall from Lake Stevens. I just have a positive thing to say. I would like to personally thank the McGees for removing all of the political signs in a very timely manner. Last year, my grandson asked me, why are all these out here? It really looks messy. So I'd like to just thank them. They were cleared. I live off of 20th. There was quite a cluster. And so again, it does take the city and the people to work together. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Any other comments for tonight? I've got, is it Tom? Tom, okay, go ahead. You'll need to unmute yourself for me, Tom.
There we go.
There
that
we
better?
go. Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Yeah, we live on Hartford Drive too. We've lived here for about 9 years now too, and it's flooded every year since then. Of course, the last 2 years have been really bad. About a few inches short of coming in the house. And if it's been going on for 9 years that we've been here, I'm just wondering, why is it taking so long to do anything about it? It's really bad. Luckily it hasn't got into our house, but it has gotten into our shop and garage and, all those tools and things that get ruined by it, and we have to replace them. And so I'm just wondering why, if it's been 9 years that we've been here, I have never seen anything look like it's even been done about it. So is there anything that's going to be happening anytime soon? And so again.
Yeah. So Tom, appreciate the comments. We usually don't answer back. If you want to shoot me an email, I'll let you know what I'm thinking personally. Okay.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, for the record, what's your last name or an address?
Mine is Ben, B-E-N-N, and the address is 2310 Hartford Drive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other comments for tonight?
Yep, would you?
Melissa, do you have comments?
Oh yeah, sorry, my radio's on in the background. I hope it's not too loud. I just want to thank you guys for the website that you put up talking about the Civic Center. I took a look at it yesterday. It looks really good. Some questions I've seen people asking. I don't expect you to address them right now. I just want to let you know I've seen people are concerned about taxes going up, of course, and they want to know if it will be owned by the city, by Snow Isle. Maybe a little more information on the website concerning those types of questions when it's appropriate. I know that'd be appreciated by many. That'll do it. Thank you.
You see,
You gotta wave your hand. You gotta get in the picture too.
All right, Melissa, thank you. And any other comments for tonight?
my name is Donna Ben.
Okay, Donna, go ahead.
I'm Tom's wife, and I just wanted to say that how much we really love living in Lake Stevens, but the damage that this water is doing to our home is unbelievable. We have a greenhouse out back. We had to rebuild the whole thing this summer because the water destructed it so terribly. Yeah, I just don't understand. Maybe you guys just don't know the damage that it does coming into our yards, into our place. And this year we planted a whole new lawn out front, and I am really worried what's going to happen to the new lawn this year too. And I guess I just wanted to say that, I really love living here, but the water damage here is just unbelievable. And we're right on to the rain season. The puddles out back where it comes from is already creeping up to our house too. And we're just in the beginning of the rainy season. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate your comments. Any other comments for tonight? I am not seeing any hands or hearing any voices. Okay, so with that, we'll close citizens' comments at this time, and we'll move to guest business. And I think we have Eric to talk about the outlet study results.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, members of the public. Brings us great pleasure. I know it's taken a little longer than we've expected, but to bringing you this lake outfall study, and a lot of people have commented on whether this is about the weir or whether this is about, taking care of the downtown flooding issues. And the answer is yes to all of it. It's a holistic look at everything that's going on downtown Lake Stevens. We've known about it for a while, but fixes are expensive and not easily done. There's permitting challenges, funding problems, things of that nature. But we do want to get the executive summary out tonight. So with me, I have Aaron Halverson, who's been the lead on this project. He's the city's capital projects manager. And we have our consultant here, Eric Davido, that will be presenting all the information. So we're really pleased to get it out there, and hopefully we can bring it back again to council at a workshop to maybe dive in a little deeper if need be. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron and let him get started.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Can everyone hear me? I was having some trouble with my headset. Okay, great. So I sort of inherited this project from Leah Everett, who started it with Davido Consulting Group. And I want to introduce Eric Davido, who is here tonight. Eric, why don't you say something to cue up your screen? There we go.
Hello, Eric Davido, Davido Consulting Group. Glad to be here. Good evening.
Yeah. Eric is you're the principal of Davido Consulting Group, and some background. He and I worked on a flood reduction project in Lake Forest Park, my former employer, and we successfully replaced 4 culverts and reduced flooding in Lake Forest Park protected 23 homes, a fire station, and a state highway, constructed that project with federal funding, and won an APWA award together. So it was very successful. I hope we can replicate that success in Lake Stevens. Okay. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We have a PowerPoint tonight to share the Lake Stevens outlet study and projects results. So give me just a moment. Oh,
Mayor, as the host of the meeting, I think you might need to give him permission.
yes.
Given Eric permission, correct?
Aaron, yeah, and Aaron.
Or Aaron. Aaron, do you want permission?
Yes, please.
Done. Let me look here. I'm going to make you a co-host.
Great.
All right. You should have the reins.
Thank you.
Okay. Are folks seeing the first slide of the presentation? Okay. Bear with me here. Okay, great. So I've introduced Eric Davido already, and this is just the agenda for this presentation. We're going to outline the Lake Stevens outlet study. We're going to talk to you about how we approach the problem, how we prioritized our alternatives or the alternatives, share the project alternatives with descriptions, focusing on emphasis on what and why and the benefit. We're not going to try to get down into the weeds unless you want us to. And then we're going to briefly talk about the design scope and fees that were tabled for a future meeting, but I think it's still relevant. I do encourage the council, you can interrupt me if you would like, council members, but perhaps in this setting, it might be best actually to hold questions until the end and we can bounce back to slides as needed. And then this presentation and the outlet study itself are actually already, with the exception of the presentation, the study and the materials have been posted to the city's website. So if you go to the homepage on the city's website, click the lake management link, you can find everything we're going to review here tonight. So the DCG team is not just Davido Consulting Group. It's Altaterra Watershed, Clear Creek Solutions, Waterfall Engineering, Linktree, ERCI, and a few others. Eric, do you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, just real quickly about our firm. We're 21 plus years in business now. We're civil structural, and now we have a waterfront marine engineering group, 75 staff, 4 offices, including Seattle and Mount Vernon. We kind of surround the Lake Stevens area. We have people that live in the Lake Stevens area as well, so we're very familiar with the area. Watershed Company is our environmental fisheries biologist and permitting and landscape architecture sub-consultant. Altaterra is our geomorphologist, and also Erin, Erin Nelson is our basin planner. And Clear Creek Solutions is now our modeler, our hydrologic and hydraulic modeling firm. They actually worked on the 1999 study, which we'll talk about later. And they also write the software for the Department of Ecology Stormwater Manual, so they're experts in their field. So the 4 of our firms worked on the study that we're going to focus on tonight. The other firms we added to the team for the next phase of work because of their expertise, including Waterfall Engineering. Pat Powers used to work for Fish and Wildlife. He literally wrote the book, so to speak, on fish passage and stream crossings. So we brought him in for his expertise in fishway design relating to the outlet improvements, lake outlet improvements. ERCI is Equinox. They are our cultural resources expert, because we need to have that on the team because we're going to be excavating material, and it will be a requirement there. EI is enviro issues, and we because of the high profile nature of the lake outlet and other projects, the lake level management, we brought in a professional outreach firm to help us with that. And finally, Linktree Surveying will be involved with surveying in different areas of the projects we'll talk about later. Okay, so we're going to jump into the study that we just recently wrapped up. The goals are listed there, including analysis and confirmation of flooding and fish habitat issues throughout the area. Generally, that's circled in the yellow there on the screen. We also performed a geomorphic and biological analysis. Geomorphic, just to explain a little bit, is where we evaluate the channel, the stream channel, in terms of the substrate or the stream bed material and sediment transport. So we can analyze the channel stability, existing stability and capacity, also for habitat, to support habitat, and to make sure any future design, we don't design something that's going to wash sediment downstream and create a problem somewhere else. We also perform biological analysis, including work in the channel itself, fish biologist, habitat evaluation, looking at fisheries data, known or suspected fish in the outlet channel in the lake and into Catherine Creek. And then we also looked at drainage issues around town, which we'll talk about later. From all that work, we developed a list of alternatives, a large list of alternatives, focusing on flooding and fish habitat, developing a decision matrix where we prioritized everything. And so we're going to walk through that in a bit, and we developed a final list of recommended proposed projects.
I'll take this one, Eric.
Okay.
So this isn't, and folks that live in Lake Stevens likely know this, this is not the first time this problem has been studied. But we hope that we can find a project from this study and construct it. But let me give you a little bit of history. So from 1979 to 1992, there were several studies, and they were primarily focused on water quality issues. We had issues in the lake with phosphorus, still do, and other issues in the lake and the tributaries. It wasn't until 1997 that a model of the basin was created. They recognized a flooding problem, primarily. That's the New Year's Day flood event of Washington. It was a big rain on snow event, and many communities in this region undertook studies of flooding and water quantity issues. And then in 1999, there was the Lake Stevens Catherine Creek Watershed Management Plan, which was similar in several ways to the study we're sharing tonight. It's over 20 years old, and the model was refined from 1997, and their projects that they suggested are listed here. So their projects included developing, creating, constructing large regional detention facilities. That's got a big price tag. Adding large woody debris to the creeks to improve habitat. Restoring the historic stream channel, which we'll share later on. I suppose many folks probably are familiar with that. And then increasing the lake water level was something they suggested. So to orient the group on what we're describing tonight, the red circle is the approximate location of the weir. The weir is intended to control the flow of the lake outlet stream channel and the lake level. The red streamline is the lake outlet channel. That's a man-made channel from the early 1900s. Catherine Creek is the blue line to the right that flows south and east to Pilchuck. The tributary to the outlet channel actually adds a fair amount of flow to the outlet channel. That's in yellow. And that channel causes flooding on 20th and 18th Street. And the historic channel is the purple dotted line that connects to the yellow line and goes up to the wetland north of Hartford. And that wetland area causes the flooding that was described during public comment tonight. Just trying to orient folks. I noted City Hall there, and I didn't note the mill, but the mill is also in that area as well. Eric, do you want to take this one?
Surely, thank you. So starting with the figure in the upper left, the green line is the historic creek alignment, and the red line is the current man-made alignment. And like Aaron said, in the early 1900s, the red channel was constructed. You can see a photo of it on the right. The town referred to it as the ditch, the ditch, and big ditch in quotes. It's man-made channel. It alters the outlet flow and the creek habitat. There's a chance that there's some issues with soils. Aaron, maybe you can talk about that for just a second. Recent experience with that. Possible contaminated soil. So we're going to have to do geotechnical analysis to make sure that we don't encounter, or if we can encounter contaminated soils, we know how to mitigate those. The important thing to point out is, this is a man-made channel. We looked at the historic channel, and both in terms of existing conditions and possibly re-establishing that channel, which you'll see later, just wasn't feasible. Anything else, Aaron?
No, I mean, I think that's a good summary, Eric. I think one thing to point out is whenever you create a man-made stream channel, you change how the stream functions, how the lake functions. And we're still dealing with this 120 years later. We're still dealing with the repercussions of this, and that's important to keep in mind. And that's been exacerbated by development, increased impervious surface, flashier flows, and just basic urbanization. I think that summarizes this slide.
Yeah, good, well put. Okay, this slide, we're showing you the existing weir, and Aaron showed you the location. It's a couple hundred feet downstream of the lake. So, there's the channel, there's a couple hundred feet of channel before it reaches the weir. The picture on the left is showing you a low flow scenario, and actually you can see the water level is below the weir board, and you can see some notches. I don't know if you can kind of highlight that with your cursor, Aaron, but there's notches in a concrete abutment structure where weir boards are placed, and we're going to show you in a few slides later how the various weir boards are managed throughout the year. But it's important to point out, during a low flow scenario like you see here, there's a notch in the bottom of the weir for fish passage, and there's some discussion about whether that provides adequate fish passage. But the lake level, the weir board the water level is below the weir board, so the weir board is not managing the lake level. And really, conversely, in the picture on the right shows you a flood condition. I think that was this last February flood event, where the water level's feet above the weir board. You can see it down below the water level. So the existing weir is about as simple as they come. It kind of reminds me of my grandpa Davido's irrigation ditches in Eastern Washington that I used to go help him maintain. They're just very simple weir boards that are manually placed and removed. And again, we're going to show you some slides later about what that looks like in terms of the weir boards and the lake level, and show you in graphs that really the lake level is not being able to manage by the weir. It needs to be improved. I think that's all we had for here. So I mentioned earlier, we looked at other problem areas in town. Hartford, we heard from citizens tonight. We're well aware of the flooding on Hartford. It actually floods from both directions. There's another slide on that in a minute, both from the lake outlet and also from Catherine Creek from the north. flooding on road crossings at 20th and 18th, like the photo in the upper right-hand corner shows 20th. The culvert crossing that road is undersized. Same thing with 18th. And the bottom right is showing some flooding at the boat launch. So here's the graph I mentioned. I don't want to geek out too much here. But I want to get into a little bit of data here. I think it actually shows the picture quite well. In addition to the photos we showed you earlier, the graph is showing you the target lake elevation in blue. And that's based on the Weir management plan that's in the table on the right, lower right. There's a 2011 Weir management plan where the city commissioned a study and a report where they worked with the community and came up with the Weir management plan, and you're seeing the elevations there. The gist of it is, you can see it on the graph, January, February, March, and October, November, December, where the blue line is flat. Essentially, the weir boards are removed, and so the weir is the weir boards are fully removed. But you can see that the lake level is much higher than the weir, and that was shown in the photo earlier. So the weir is not allowing the lake to drain enough in the winter. And then conversely, you can see where the blue graph raises up, and you can see the orange and the yellow lines, which represent the minimum and maximum lake level elevation, and the gray line showing the average. And you can see that especially, well, I mean, you can see that right about April, May on the minimum lake level elevation and the average, it dips below the target lake level. And really what we need to do is provide an outlet control that will achieve the targeted lake elevation, where we want to store water. We want to manage the lake level better in the winter for flooding. And then also in the summer, extend the flow, or raise the lake level a little bit higher, or extend it longer into the spring and summer, so we can provide better low flow conditions in the summer for fish habitat. The upper right table shows you some modeled and observed lake levels. To put things in perspective, you can see that the 2-year lake level is elevation 212.4, and outlet flow is 66 cubic feet per second. 100-year plus lake level is 213.1 with about 71 cubic feet per second. This last February was the highest observed. It's well over 100-year lake level. Although we have the flow marked as unknown, because that's something we need to model to confirm what the lake level was for that. Like Aaron said, the modeling is 20 years old, and we need to update the modeling to reflect land use changes and recalibrate the model, including to this February 2020 event.
And can I add something to that, Eric?
Please.
I want to say that the Public Works Department tried to manage the lake level to the Weir management plan this year. And so I think there was a difference for folks that live on the lake, and perhaps a difference for folks that live on the creek as well. So they perhaps saw more flow in the stream channel during the summer than they had in the past, which is great for fish and aquatic organisms. But it might have seemed like the lake was higher than it should have been, but it wasn't. So with some careful management, we can manage the lake a little bit better with the existing weir, but it's very difficult.
Yeah, we even heard when we interviewed city staff and other people that even the beavers will go and remove the boards. So it's difficult to manage that weir board system. So we'd be looking at something that would be a little more beaver proof and provide more control, and that the city staff could manage better than the weir system now. So, okay, this is showing you again, orienting you the green line on the upper left photo is the historic channel, and you can see on the upper right, it's a LiDAR map associated with some modeling that was done in the 1999 study that showed that that the Hartford Drive area floods from both directions at different times. So that the Catherine Creek culvert crossing in the upper right-hand corner of that upper right photo is undersized, currently being under design by another organization to be replaced. But what happens is the flow coming down Catherine Creek cannot make it through the culvert, and so it backs up into that wetland complex, that area to the north of Hartford, and then will actually flood over Hartford Drive from the north. It also floods from the south from the lake outlet. So it can flood from both directions. So with the lake outlet improvements that we'll be discussing in a few slides later, along with the Catherine Creek culvert replacement, should alleviate the flooding from both directions and really alleviate the flooding of Hartford Drive, along with the Hartford Drive road raising project, which you can see in the graph on the bottom of the slide. The black line across the graph is showing you the lake level, and the red line is the profile of Hartford Drive, and you can see that it dips below the lake level, and it's really flat from the lake to relatively flat from the lake to Catherine Creek. So that shows you why the road floods often, and the project we're showing you later, we're going to be raising the road, excuse me, to help alleviate the flooding of the road. Okay, anything else, Aaron?
No.
Okay.
So we're back to this orientation map. This highlights our problem areas. Can you see my laser pointer? Great, okay. The weir lacks hydraulic control for most of the year. The stream overtops Hartford Drive in this area, and it's actually a combination of the outlet stream, this tributary, and a backwater condition from Catherine Creek. This area is flat as a pancake in here, so it just fills up with water like a swimming pool. And that's where you experience this residential flooding. It's a combination of those three factors. The stream overtops 20th Street northeast here, tributary, historical stream outlet channel alignment, and 18th Street here. So really what's happening is, and I like that LiDAR image, is everything is so low and the water is coming up. It's just filling up. And it's hitting a pinch point here at Catherine Creek. It's hitting a pinch point here. So we need to find a way, our solutions need to involve controlling the outlet of the lake to hold water during high flow events, to hold water so that we can have summer low flows, replacing the Catherine Creek Confluence culvert so we can get water out of this low area as quickly as possible, eliminating this backwater condition here to isolate these two streams, replacing the culvert at 20th Street and replacing the culvert at 18th Street. We're going to go into more detail on that. Eric?
So this is showing you the same map with all of the alternatives or problems and alternatives that we identified in the study and the associated table with this. And like Aaron mentioned earlier, this study is available through the city's website. Just want to point out here that we looked at dozens of problem areas and identified the dozens of alternatives. And then we pared those down with a decision process, which we're going to talk about next, to identify the top priority alternatives.
Yeah, and we know it's hard to read, but we did that intentionally. If you want to read it, take a look at the study. Okay.
And then the link to the study is there on the bottom.
Okay.
So this slide is summarizing our approach for ranking. The highest priority was better lake level management and lake outlet flows. The lake itself and the outlet impact a large number of people, and the flooding in town does impact several people as well. Though the lake and the outlet combined just the impacts more properties and people, so we prioritize that. Though, you know, we also identified the flooding in town on Hartford and also the other streets, 18th and 20th, that's shown in the bottom bullet. But along with the flood mitigation is the habitat improvement as well, because when we're out there working or identifying a project to improve the lake level management and the channel capacity and alleviating flooding, we can add in channel habitat improvements, which also open the door to some funding opportunities, which we'll discuss towards the end of the presentation. One thing I want to point out real quickly, though, is the 18th Avenue and 20th or 18th Street and 20th Street culverts. Excuse me. I live on 18th Avenue, so I get that mixed up. But 18th Street and 20th Street culverts. Those areas are, you know, when we do improvements 1, 2, and 3 that are shown on the priority list here, which will alleviate, or which will improve lake level management and improve flooding on the lake outlet channel. There will still be flooding of the culverts on 18th and 20th because of that southerly basin that was on the map earlier that Aaron was showing and marked in yellow. So I want to make that clear that if we can do improvements 1, 2, and 3, improvements 4 and 5 still need to be done eventually. And as we're showing here, we're going to get into more detail of these. Shows you the basic project names and the ranking. So the lake outlet and outlet channel is priority 1 at $1.65 billion total project cost. You know, that includes design, permitting, and construction. Catherine Creek Confluence analysis is number 2. And basically, we need to do more modeling. We need to update the modeling. Like I mentioned earlier, the model is 20 years old. We need to recalibrate the model. And so when we design our improvements, we know they're accurate. Priority number 3 is the Hartford Drive project, which includes raising the road and some local drainage improvements and stream channel restoration. Projects 4 and 5 are the 20th Street and 18th Street culvert replacements. Okay, anything else? Okay, so then moving on, I probably need to move things a little quick faster here. So this is showing the Weir outlet project, just giving you some concept drawings of what it could look like, a combination of structure and more organic type logs, Weir logs. Our fishway expert will help design a fish passable outlet structure. Could even be a more automated structure that uses automated gates, and then there could be some large woody debris associated with it. Let's keep moving here.
Okay. So the key here, folks, is we're trying to make it so that we can control the lake level more actively with an automated system, and that we can hold water back so we're not flooding Hartford Drive and downtown during the winter, but we're also maintaining flows during the summer. That's what a new Weir would give us.
Okay.
Okay, click down.
And then this slide is showing the study, the additional modeling we would, or the modeling update we need to do, approximately 100,000. If you click, I think it'll circle the lake basin. It shows you that there's really 2 main basins. I think if you click advance, it'll automate.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. So there's the Lake Stevens tributary basin, which is just under 3,500 acres. And then if you click again, it'll show you the Catherine Creek tributary basin, which it's about the same size, just a little bit less, about 3,000 300 acres. And just as a reminder, the lake itself is just a little over 1,000 acres. So we'll be updating the modeling and recalibrating both the Lake Stevens Basin and then modeling the Catherine Creek Basin as well.
So I think one thing that's interesting is the problem we're having, the flooding problems, the water quantity problems we're having, is where these two basins meet. And that's not uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then the priority 3, alternative 3 is the Hartford Drive project, and we're showing you the flooding in the photo in the upper right. What we're looking at doing is schematic cross-section on the lower right is some kind of a wall system where we can raise the road and contain the flow better in the stream. There's also some drainage around the fire station that's that's adding to the flooding that we'd address, and also be looking at some channel improvements as well. Anything else, Aaron?
No.
Okay. Then finally, these are the 2 culvert projects, priority projects on 18th Street and 20th Street. You can see the photos of flooding on the right. The center photo is showing you actually the Lion Creek project that Aaron mentioned early in the presentation. Similar condition where you have relatively small existing culverts, and we, like 2 to 4 foot wide culverts are replaced with a 20-foot wide culvert to provide the capacity, the flood flow capacity, and also fish passage.
Great.
Anything else, Aaron?
No, I mean, I do want to note that those photos weren't obviously at the height of the flooding. So the roads were significantly overtopped. This is 2 days later. Okay.
Okay, so these are the 5, just to summarize here, this is the 5 priority improvements out of that long list that we showed you earlier. And then if you click the next slide, the phase 1 set of projects are alternatives 1, 2, and 3 that are circled in red there. And we're calling that the Lake Stevens to Catherine Creek Flood Mitigation and Habitat Improvement Project. The 2 culvert replacements are high priority, but they would be in a subsequent phase to this budget, funding provided. We can go to the next slide. Just to get into our scope briefly, we have the team I introduced earlier and our associated fees, with the task 1 being that it's really alternatives 1 and 2. It's the lake outlet and the study, and task 2 being the Hartford Drive. And you can go to the next slide. And these are showing you the subtasks involved and the fees involved. There's a lot of work involved to get it to study, to finish the modeling, confirm the design, and then produce the construction documents for bidding and construction on both projects, and then finally build the project. Anything more to add on that, Aaron?
So going on to grant funding, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that I've done this before for another jurisdiction, and we funded the project with FEMA funding at 98%, combination of FEMA funding, county funding, and state funding. And the most important thing we did was design the project and have it shovel ready to go. And so when that funding came through and they were looking for ways to spend that money, we were first in line. So what we've done so far is we've reached out to the Watershed Resource Enhancement Committee associated with WIRA 7, and we have a project that is on their list for funding. We've already done that. FEMA hazard mitigation grants, I mentioned earlier, they like to work with jurisdictions so that they can remove homes from floodplains, not necessarily remove homes, but alter the floodplains, manage the floodplain so homes don't flood. And then another option among several others is the Washington State Recreation Conservation Office has a fish barrier removal board program that could help us fund the weir replacement and culvert replacements. Questions?
Yeah, on your, for the Hartford Drive priority 3 there, although it's really all part of priority 1, the change in Hartford Drive and the stream improvements, is that going to mitigate the flooding of the homes along Hartford Drive right away as soon as it's done?
That is why we need to update the modeling with the Catherine Creek Culvert project included in the modeling. So we need to confirm that. That's why the study is one of the top 3 priorities. The $100,000 study, the modeling. Excuse me.
So Kim, to elaborate, the key is to keep the confluence of the lake outlet and Catherine Creek at the culvert here. Let them meet here. Don't let them overtop and flood this low area. So isolate the two, replace the Catherine Creek culvert, which Salmon is working on, so that we can get the water out of this low area more quickly and also move this interaction of this confluence out.
At the same time, during a flooding event, if we're trying to put the weirs into the lake to hold water back in the lake, what does it do to the lake level along the north shore of the lake where everything is so low, the properties there? I mean, last year during the flooding event, we had, what, 15 or 16 docks underwater.
Yeah, and that, I mean, to add to that, and you saw that in the photo in the presentation, that we just can't get enough water out of the lake with the current outlet control. So ideally, we'd be getting water out earlier and lowering the lake level. But the lake outlet could even have really real-time controls, which is happening more and more in our area, where it's actually tied into weather forecasts. And the weir can be automatically adjusted. That's more expensive. We'd like to end up with a more organic outlet control that is more, that meets the fish passage requirements and the lake level management requirements and minimize manual adjustment of things is the goal.
Yeah. So yeah, agreed. And Kim, the control at the weir is the stream channel. It's the channel capacity. It's not the weir during the winter. And so one of the biggest parts of the weir project is actually modifying that channel from the lake downstream to improve the capacity, get that water out more quickly earlier during a rainfall event.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but we want to move the weir. Well, we're likely going to move the weir, the outlet control, closer to the lake, and it likely needs to be longer, wider outlet weirs or outlet controls that will let us get water out quicker than it can now.
Okay,
Gary, and Aaron, this is Gary speaking. Having what you just said regarding the weir and the downstream impacts of the volume of water going down, would, I guess, just add some commentary as to why. I mean, it would seem to me you would want to improve the downstream corridors before you work on the weir situation, just because you've got other tributaries adding to that problem. So it's not just the lake itself. It's as you mentioned, the other stream coming from the south, and also drainage areas from kind of hitting everything there. So could you kind of maybe expand a little bit as to why the weir is so important, and maybe primary versus secondary of the downstream improvements?
Sure. First of all, I want to point out again that with the updated modeling, we're going to confirm the downstream channel condition or capacity. And if with the Catherine Creek, one of the key projects is the Catherine Creek culvert replacement, because a lot of the flooding is from the 1999 study is coming from that northerly direction, in the orange arrow on the screen there.
Mm-hmm.
So if that culvert's replaced, which that needs to be modeled. That's part of this study scope. But we'll be looking at that. So what happens now? Aaron pointed out earlier. You have flow coming from the lake outlet, the southerly basin, that yellow line. Maybe you can go back to that slide, Aaron. And then flow coming back from along the orange line on this slide. We're gonna address all that in the additional study and make sure that we don't need to do some other downstream channel improvement. But based on what we saw in our study and the previous study, the channel itself between the yellow line and where it says Hartford Drive and Catherine Creek is relatively large, and appears to have the capacity needed. It's really what's causing the flooding is everything's meeting up. The purple and red and yellow are meeting up right there at Hartford. That's causing the flooding. To answer your question about the lake outlet, we want to be letting more water out sooner in like the shoulder months. Maybe you can go to that graph, Aaron, the lake outlet graph. So you can see where, you look at September, October, it's November, we can be looking at perhaps letting more water out sooner, or just right now the weir doesn't let enough water out in the winter months and during a storm event. But if we can let more water out at a managed rate, we can bring the lake level down to a lower level in the winter months. That'll alleviate flooding along the lake, but then provide some storage in the lake. So it's like a big detention pond. So the lake itself is a relatively large area. It makes a nice storage feature that we can manage, so that we provide the detention without causing flooding of those lower properties that were mentioned earlier.
So in order to get some more water out of the lake at those peak times, you're talking about lowering the future weir as well then, right?
It's a combination, perhaps not the elevation itself. It's moving the weir closer to the lake and providing a longer, wider weir that becomes the hydraulic control, whereas now the channel narrows and for a couple hundred feet and doesn't allow the lake to drain at the managed level that we'd like to see. So.
Right. Yeah, Councilmember Peter Shaken. I think I've overemphasized the word weir. When I say weir, I mean we're talking about the weir, and we're actually talking about the outlet channel. Sort of the hydraulic control is a combination of the two. So we can't do one without the other. And so when we do the weir, we're going to have to do several hundred feet of downstream improvements in the channel just to make sure that the hydraulic control really is the weir and not the channel. So we are addressing that.
All right, thank you.
I would like to say something, if I can be heard. Yes, this is man-made, this problem, it sounds like, from many years of maybe making not the best choices. And I'm wondering if the fact that we're doing so much developing and cutting trees down is going to aggravate this after we get this fixed. And you get the money from the state and the federal government, we get it repaired, and then we proceed with our developments, and we're not careful about how we're developing. I'm just wondering if we need to be paying attention to that so that we don't make human mistakes in our decisions in the future to aggravate this. Thank you.
One thing I'll point out is we're going to be updating the land use information that goes into the model, the hydrologic model, because a lot has changed in 20 years. So we'll at least capture the existing conditions and calibrate to that. but you bring up a good point. One of the things we can do is, and we're doing this a lot on other projects for other jurisdictions, City of Seattle, for example. You can look at climate change or land use change, and we could, in the model, we can model a future condition that would be increased runoff from the basin, and see how, and then see how the facilities perform. What I'd like to see in the design is that this is going to be a 50 to 100 year life expectancy type project, and I'd like to see that it has the flexibility to change the control strategy to account for future conditions that you mentioned.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, having none, pass it back to the mayor.
Eric and Aaron, good work on this. It's given us some food for thought, and yeah, we'll discuss this and see where we want to go with it. Okay, we are going to move on to council business. Councilmember Peter Shagan, do you want to see if any council members have any business?
Yeah, we can do that. I guess in the interest of time, I'm just wondering, we do have executive session later on, and just wondering if we have an expectation for the amount of time that will be utilized for that.
Yeah, we're going to need probably at least a good half hour, if not 45 minutes on executive session. So,
okay. So how about if we do this as any council member have anything of significance that they would like to address, hopefully quicker rather than longer presentation, if we could do that. If not, we'll pass on this section. Is there anything, Councilmember Frederick?
Okay.
Well, Mary had actually had her hand up before I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, really quickly, it's really important. We need to have every voice out there saying we need to comply with the guidance. I don't know if anyone has been following what's going on with COVID in our communities, but right now, I'll quote the health officer: 6 of the 7 highest case days, single day case numbers that we've seen since the first case in the country were in the past 7 days. And that's specifically here in Snohomish County. On Friday, we had 250 cases alone in that one day. So it's really important, whatever your internal motivation is, to comply with that guidance. If it's to keep businesses open, if it's to save a life, if it's so that we can get to the other end, it's really important that people apply those guidance rules, wear masks, avoid those unnecessary social gatherings, maintain social distancing, limit those indoor gatherings and all of those things. It really is getting important. We're also starting to see increases in hospitalizations and ever so slightly in deaths. And we're starting to see illness again starting to show up in our long-term care facilities. So it's really important that we all act now.
Thank you, Councilman Frederick. Mary, I apologize.
It's okay.
You were on the right of my screen, and then you
That's all right.
popped over to the left, and I didn't see you. So
I can't help you with that.
Apologize for that.
I'll make it short, and I appreciate me getting to speak. Of course, I'm going to talk about the senior center, and I know we're going to talk about this in the budget, but I just want you to know that they are doing all they can, and I know that Jerry will speak when we have somewhere he's going to speak today. They're reaching out to, just want you to know that 20% approximately of the population of Lake Stevens as seniors, about 20% of us. And so I really do hope we consider in our budget that we would add that $20,000 to help the senior center reach out to more seniors and to do more for our community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dickinson. Anyone else have anything quickly? Not seeing or hearing from anyone on the screen here. I will pass it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. I will just real quickly, I wanted to let the council know something that I'm working on just real quickly. Over the last year and a half, our community, I think, experienced quite a bit of division through a tool called doxing. And there were several members of our community who were experienced doxing, and it's created a lot of division in our community. It's something that I've recognized and I'm very concerned about. So one of the things that I've been working on with some legislators, our lobbyists, and a couple of other elected officials, as well as some other groups, is to work on some doxing legislation that I want to introduce this in this next legislative session to see if we can figure out if we can find some sort of legislation that will help curtail this issue that I think has really created a little bit of division in our community, and it's a tough road for a lot of First Amendment issues on that subject, but it's something I'm taking up, and I'm heading up with our lobbyists to try to figure something out. So I want to let the public know that I'm working on that. So with that, I know that there are no city department reports, so we're going to go to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Consent agenda passes. So we're going to go to the public hearing, and that's item G. And the subject of the hearing is ordinance number 1099, public tax levy for 2021, and setting the public tax levy. And I'm going to open the public hearing at this time. And Barb, I think we have a staff report from you.
I'm going to go ahead and let Josh take the lead on the property tax as it runs right into the budget.
Okay.
Okay. Barb, is this the ordinance? It's all the ordinances for the public hearing?
It actually is. So the public hearing, it's actually 3 public hearings all in one. It's the budget, the property tax, and then the property tax substantial need. So it is opening all 3 public hearings, and then you'll take action on each individual one.
Okay, good. That's what I was thinking. Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council, and public in attendance. Do I have sharing ability, Brett?
Hey, Jocelyn, one before you start, let me clarify that. Barb, do you need me to open up a public hearing on all 3 of those?
Yes, if you would.
Yeah.
But not individually?
No, I think in the past we've actually opened the entire, all public hearings, and then we do public comment on the 3 that are related, which is the budget, the property tax, and the substantial need. Then we close the public comment portion, and then we close the individual hearings, and then we take action on those hearings, and then they move on to the next public hearing and open that. In the past, sometimes they've actually opened all of them at once. So.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go individually on this one tonight, just for
okay.
I don't get confused.
The entire presentation is all in one for the property tax, both property tax and the budget. It's all in one presentation.
Okay, so we'll take Josh's presentation now, and then, but I'm going to open up each one individually.
Okay.
I do have property tax first, Brett, so we can stop and go into the budget if we needed to.
Okay, why don't you just give your whole presentation, and then
sure.
We'll go. And you do have permission.
Okay. There we go. Can you see that?
Got it.
So like we were saying, this is the public hearing. This is the public hearing for property taxes and for the budget. Everything we have seen before, so there's no surprises here. So a lot of it is just kind of a recap and giving some information to any public in attendance about the budget and the budget process. We started off with property taxes. Like we said last time, it's a slightly uncommon year. The IPD was less than 1%. And what that means is we can't levy 1% unless we do something. You have to do a substantial need. And that is something that we're recommending in the budget, is to do a substantial need. If you don't do a substantial need, then you limit yourself to the IPD of 100.6%. And you basically just give up your ability to levy that additional 3%. Here's just a historical graph about past IPD rates. And you can see it's pretty uncommon for it to be less than 1%. So for property taxes for 2021, it's been the council's prerogative to do a substantial need to increase the levy by 101%. And what I have here is to say that what we're doing here is increasing the levy by 101% for levy calculation purposes, but we're only going to actually levy the 0.6%, 100.6%. So what that's going to do is allow our levy next year to go up by 101%. So it's not being reduced, but also give citizens a little tax break this year. We're not going to levy or the full amount that we could. So we're only going to levy 100.6% of that number. And in the box down below here, it just shows you that by levying the 0.6%, the difference between the 6 and the 1% is about 20,000. So we'll be levying the 30,000. The rest of the substantial need ordinance will be basically used for calculations for next year for 2022. I know that's kind of confusing, so I have another little slide here that's going to talk about it. But basically, we need a substantial need ordinance to increase the levy by the full 1%. For the actual property taxes we're going to levy, we're only going to levy 0.6%. And usually the difference between those two is bank capacity. I know I've said this in previous presentations. Normally, this would create bank capacity, but I was mistaken. I actually had to talk to the assessor. We have a kind of a unique situation in that this year, like this refunds number, that 21,000, normally that number is much lower. And the way this works is the refunds basically take away our bank capacity for next year. So what they do is they compare your actual levy, which includes the refunds, and they compare it to your highest lawful levy. Our highest lawful levy is increasing by that 1%, but now the two are almost equal because of some calculation, the state and how they calculate it. They make you keep the refunds in your actual levy when they compare the two. So somewhat unfortunate in how the state tells assessors to do this calculation, but it is important for us to do the substantial need, because without the substantial need, our highest lawful levy is actually $20,000 less. It'd be about $5,252,000. So we would lose some money if we didn't do the substantial need ordinance. But for 2021, the property tax increase is the 0.6% plus new construction plus the refunds. So all those together, they make the recommended 2021 property tax. Do anyone questions on that? Because that is kind of confusing. I know that we can talk about it after. So this is the comparison that you've seen before, the 2020-2021 comparison. It says 2021 levy rate 1%. That's my fault. It's not expanded enough. It's rounding to 1%. So that it is 0.6%. So when you compare 2021 to 2020, the difference is in the bottom table on the right. If your AV increased by 8,000, it's roughly 478. And then you have different scenarios here on your property valuation going up by different amounts. So if you're in general, the city's AV went up 8%. So if your AV goes up by less than 8%, you'll pay less taxes overall compared to last year. And if it goes up by more than 8%, you'll start to pay more taxes compared to last year. So it really is just, it's hard to nail down for all the different property values. But if your house goes up by roughly about 8%, which is these scenarios that I'm showing you, these are 8% increases for these different property values. This is what you would see around $4.78 or $23.92. But it's very difficult to predict everyone's property. So it's very general. This is the same slide I've shown before. This is just a comparison showing that the city is really a small piece of everyone's property taxes in Lake Stevens and every city. We're only $1 in 2020, and in 2021, our levy rate is expected to drop below $1. The reason for that is as assessed values go up, levy rates go down. Typically, those are a relationship there. As assessed values go up high, the levy rates go down. So it has nothing to do with the amount of revenue that the city is receiving. So comparing 2020 to 2021, a house at $350,000 paid about $358.71. When we levy the 0.6% and their value went up 8%, that house would roughly pay $16.75 more than they did in 2020. So if their house did not go up 8%, it would be less than that. If their house went up more than 8%, it would be more than that. That's all I have on the property taxes. Really, we went over this a few times. So just to reiterate is that the substantial need is going to increase our levy limit by 101% for levy calculations. We're only going to actually levy 0.602% for 2021. We'll just continue on for the presentation, Brett. Okay. So going into 2021 budget, like I said before, we've gone over a lot of this. So this is just a lot of recap. And I put in a few new slides to just show the data a little differently. But the 2021 budget, the key initiatives is to continue the downtown development, keep that going and not slow down. The civic campus, which we've talked about, we saw the news about that. We're putting money in for the design work down there. Keep funding our parks, a lot of park development in Lake Stevens, really beautiful parks, and continue looking at the recreation division. Maintain high levels police or public safety, which we're doing, and funding new officers, and then continue infrastructure, encourage economic development. We're doing a lot of projects in this town, and everything is geared towards improving our infrastructure. So the 2021 proposed budget, this is just a high level look at all our funds. The one thing I note is the expenditures for 2021. We're approaching $40 million. So that's getting pretty big. A lot of that has to do with capital projects that we've been doing. We've got some very large capital projects, 20th Street, the downtown Mill Spur. So definitely getting a lot larger in the last couple of years. The general fund includes the permit fund and the contingency fund. So that's all three of those funds combined. And you can kind of see overall is revenues are pretty close to expenditures. We're slightly more on the expenditure side, mostly due to the general fund. So here's a look if you expand all those funds out. The general fund here still includes the permit fund and the contingency fund, but overall, you can see the funds, 100 funds like the street fund, the 410 fund, stormwater fund. Those two are bold. Those are the two funds that have people. So the bolded funds are just where all of the people's salaries and things go. I saw in 515 the equipment fund vehicles, it says $1 for the expenditures. I think that's just, I need to go back and look at that. I think it's just a rounding error. That needs to be 0. We are purchasing some vehicles for 515, which is planning. Those vehicles are going to be coming out of the permit fund. And so these equipment replacement funds are mostly for replacing existing vehicles. So as the permit funds vehicles depreciate and we go to sell them, then that fund would purchase vehicles from existing. Other than
Josh, sorry to interrupt you for just a minute. Councilmember Dickinson saying her screen is not changing. She's not seeing the presentation. Is council seeing the presentation? It's changing screens?
I'm
Okay.
seeing it.
All right. I just wanted to double check, Josh. Thank you.
it could be it could be internet or something.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
But anyways, that's this expanded view of the funds. I think one of the things I note is the 300 funds. Those you can see the revenues and expenditures. Those are all of our capital project funds, and there's a lot of capital projects going on. 2021 citywide revenue breakdown. This is showing the revenues for all funds all together. It's just kind of a holistic look at what revenues make the biggest makeup. You can see I broke out taxes. So 41% of all our revenues are taxes. That's for all funds, not just the general fund. Property tax, sales tax, REIT. What I just wanted to point out here was that overall, the property tax and sales tax, we did not include. We're very conservative this year. You'll see it on the next slide too. So property tax increase is roughly 4%. Most of that has to do with new construction and not our 0.6% that we just talked about. It has mostly to do with new construction and refunds and things like that. The sales tax increase is less than 1% compared to our actuals from 2020. And our REIT that we put in is the same as 2020. The charges for service, the next highest bucket, that's mostly storm funds. And other financing sources has a lot to do with transfers between funds and to the debt service funds. So here is a look at just the general fund. The previous slide, you could see that it was 41% for the whole city, but for taxes for the general fund for 2021 budget is actually 78%. The property tax amount, like I was saying, went up about 4%. Utility taxes here, we budgeted at 2.1 million. Franchise fees, 452,000. The sales tax budget for 2021 is about 4.4 million. When I say slight increase, it's less than 1%. So it's pretty flat, pretty conservative going into 2021. That number does include the 300,000 in sales tax we talk about, where we keep some of the construction sales tax in the general fund. The rest of the construction sales tax goes into the contingency fund that we would like to hold for capital projects, but for right now, it's kind of being used to subsidize the general fund. And it also includes the criminal justice sales tax. The one thing I want to note here is you can see overall there's a large decrease. That has to do with CARES Act. The grants and state shared number there, that 2.4 million, that includes the almost $1.5 million that we got in CARES money. Most of that money went out in grants to businesses. A little bit of that we did keep for internal costs, but most of that went out to the businesses. So that's why you see such a large drop. It's just because of the CARES Act. General fund, our operating fund here, and these are all the general fund departments. This is just showing you the 2020 estimated expenditures and what the proposed budget is here. The one thing I want to note about looking at 2020 was that we were actually under budget, or projected to be under budget by about $1 million. And that has to do with the fact that we took a conservative look in 2020 to hold expenditures, hold a lot of professional services and hold a hiring of staff. So a lot of departments' budgets were under budget for 2020. So when you look at 2020 compared to 2021, a lot of those requests that we didn't do that we said, let's hold off, they actually are going to be rolling some of those forward into 2021. And all those positions that we didn't hire in 2020, we're looking to hire now in 2021. So some of those costs that we saved in 2020 are kind of rolling forward into 2021. So you kind of see that here when you compare the two. The 2021 budget includes the FTE requests, and it includes all of the item requests. Off to the right here, you can see the salaries and benefits for the general fund. Of the 16 million, 11.4 million of it is salaries and benefits. The current staffing levels is about 10.7 million. And the difference between those two is the requests for new staff. So if we didn't hire any new staff, the salaries and benefits would be 10.7. The budget includes the new staff that we're requesting, which is about 11.4. The cost of living this year was pretty low. It was like, man, I can't remember. I think it was 1%. The guild contracts has a minimum of 1.5. So that's one of the things we had to put in here was that they have a 1.5% increase. The Teamsters didn't have that kind of language, so there's at 1%. And then we decided to go the non-representative, we just kind of put in the middle at 1.25. And then medical and dental increases in the budget are around 4 and 5%. So going over, well, what's included in the budget? We've talked about this before. These are the staffing requests that are in the budget that are funded. The big thing to note here is that when we went through and prioritized things, we took a lot of things out. We did add back the code enforcement inspector. That was added back by the council. The majority of these positions we have slated to be hired about June of 2021. We're just being conservative on, we're not really knowing what's going to happen in 2021. We're just going to wait and see. And as we approach the June mark, we're just going to reevaluate and see how we're doing. And if we can go ahead and hire these positions. The code enforcement inspector is supposed to be hired about March. I think we put it in March in the budget. It has a lot to do with when the public works shop remodel is done. So that position may be later than that. The application analyst is projected to start January 1st, and then the public works supervisor is supposed to start January 1st. But other than those three, everything else is kind of staggered out in June and beyond. Here is the proposed org chart. It's probably extremely hard to see unless you have a giant screen. But what you can see is these green colors are basically the new FTE requests that are spread out through the city. So 2021 budget is taking a conservative approach when we're looking at funding items beyond personnel, when we're looking at supplying stuff. So I just did a little recap about the large items are just 2020 roll forwards, the park security, police software, some city beautification items, and some public works vehicles. The approach this year, just like every year, everyone put in all the requests, we prioritized it, and we just decide which things are the highest priority. And those are the things that make it into the budget. And here's a list of all those things that I put, those more summarized in the previous slide. Here's a detailed list that you guys have seen in your budget binders and things like that. But this year, not as much requests as in prior years. The biggest thing really this year is the security cameras and parks, and a request for things at the police station, the new police station, and then some funding requests for trucks and things like that. This is the forecasted general fund. I'll make a few notes here about this. This is a graph that, like Kim Daughtry says, the doom and gloom graph, which it really is. What I wanted to point out here is this graph is the current proposed budget and our current forecast of revenues and expenditures. The one thing that it does assume is that we spend all of our budget every single year, and like this year, we didn't spend all of our budget. Most years we don't. Most years we don't spend all of our budget and we roll things forward. The other thing this assumes is a pretty conservative outlook on sales tax. And so as we go into 2021, we're very hopeful, cautiously optimistic about being wrong and being able to update our forecast. But for now, the sales tax assumption is conservative. We're just taking basically 2020 and putting it in 2021. And then we're forecasting off that number, which makes a big impact over multiple years. The other big impact here is the permit fund. We lowered the amount that the permit fund was putting in the general fund, and that can change as we start hiring people and we start seeing if they're working more permit related activities, then we can increase the permit fund allocation. So the other big operating fund, the street fund, the 2.5 million in revenues. This is the property tax allocation is about 1.4 million. The other main revenue stream, the motor vehicle fuel tax and garbage utility tax. The oh, I have to do that. The motor vehicle fuel tax note is that it has been decreasing. The state has not receiving as much fuel tax, probably because a lot of people are working from home. So this year we had like slight reduction in motor vehicle fuels tax and looking forward into the future. On the expenditure side, this fund is getting the supervisor position. The other thing we added 100,000 just for 2021 for annual payment preservation program. And this also includes the capital projects, the shop remodel. So we estimate the end at about 1.5 million for 2021. The surface water fund. This fund is mostly, it gets all of its money from the service charge. The rate schedule that we approved has really helped this fund. It's able to transfer money in the capital projects fund. It's hopefully able to do some of those things that we have presentation today about the outfall study. So that's been really, really good for this fund. The expenditures, just like every year, we have the phosphorus and milfoil treatments, and we project to transfer about $1 million into the capital fund. For 2020, we're actually hoping to transfer about 2 million. So far, we've transferred about 1.5 million. But going out into the future, it's looking like we're going to be able to put in about $1 million a year into the capital fund. There's nothing else really new with the surface water in the budget. Okay, going on to other big things in the budget. This is similar to the capital presentation I gave you. I just condensed it and just showing you the things that we're going to be rolling forward and some of the new budget requests for capital items. So facility capital program, these are some of the major projects going on. The police station, the 2020 budget was 4 million. So anything we don't finish that project, whatever we have left in budget authority, we're going to roll over to 2021 in a budget amendment next year. Police restoration, same thing. We have 200,000 this year. We are going to do that project next year, so it's going to be rolled forward. The public workshop, this has a budget of 843,000, and they have spent some, and we'll roll forward the difference. The request in the budget is to add 556,000 more. That money is spread out between storm, street, and park, and so we'll roll forward whatever's remaining, and we're going to be adding the 556,000 in the 2021 budget. For the park capital, North Cove Phase 2, right behind City Hall there, we have 1.5 million in the 2020 budget. So whatever we don't spend, we're going to roll forward for that one. And list here of all the 2021 new park requests in the 2021 budget. They're mostly little projects, but all of these will be funded for next year, and they're all paid from park mitigation. Transportation capital projects, big one, 20th Street, 5.9 million. We've spent quite a bit so far in 2020, but whatever was left over is going to roll forward. I think we said this last time, this has some grant funding issues where we've spent over 3 million and the grantee has only given us like 175,000. So we're hoping next year that they can release more funds for us. 91st Avenue extension. That's another big budget item. And so we're going to be billing in the city of Everett, which is going to be really important. And whatever is not spent this year, we're going to roll forward in 2021. Trestle HOV, same thing. Budget was 2.6 million. And there's the refunding and the grant and whatever is not done with that one, we're going to roll forward. And in 2021 transportation new projects, the new projects in the budget are 200,000 for sidewalks, 100,000 for the South Lake Stevens Road design, 10,000 for the 99th U-turn channelization, and then not necessarily a request, but $500,000 payment preservation for paid out of the street fund. One of the big project requests for next year is the downtown project, the Mill Spur improvements, North Court Phase 3 at 2 million, and then the relocation of the Grimm House. The one thing I wanted to note here is we have budgeted the property sale at 11819 South Lake Stevens, but the project's kind of been scoped back a little bit. So the property sale of parcel C isn't in the budget for 2021, but it's definitely something that we're going to be looking at selling in the future. But the project's been scoped back a little bit, so we don't have to sell that property to do this first part of the Mill Spur improvement. The other,
Can I ask a super quick question? Sorry to interrupt. I just
Sure.
want to make sure I'm clear. Is that the property that is next to the new police station?
yes, the 1819 South Lake Stevens, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is parcel C, what is parcel C of BLA?
Parcel C of BLA is in downtown Lake Stevens by City Hall.
Okay.
It's down by Mill Spur Road.
Okay, thank you.
So the property sale will pay for this, and then some park mitigation will go in to fund the North Coast Phase 3 improvements. For the swim capital, the decant facility is a big project going on now. Like I was saying in the previous presentation, that's the overall cost, but 50% of this project will be reimbursed by the sewer district. This project is ongoing, and so whatever we don't do this year, we'll roll forward. 2021 project requests, it sounds like we talked about this a little bit. We have 500,000 in the budget for this rear replacement channel restoration. Grant funding possible. I think that project is grant dependent. We're looking at the previous slides we were looking at, but we have 500,000 in for kind of a replacement channel restoration design. The other big one is a storm detention pond, 91st and 24th, over in 20th Street Southeast, and then Catherine Creek bridge repair, 250,000. So those are the new project requests for 2021 for the storm fund. Yeah, I don't know if I went fast or not, but that's all I have. That's the 2021 property taxes and the 2021 budget kind of summary. After public comment, what we're looking for is the approval of the reading of the budget, the adoption of the property tax levy, and the adoption of the substantial need ordinance. This is the first reading of the budget, and November 24th will be the second reading of the budget, and then it'll be the adoption of the budget. And that's all I have. So I'll open the public hearing up to public comment.
Hey, Josh, good stuff. What questions do we have for Josh? No questions for Josh?
Hey, Josh, I got a question for you. So the subway parcel that's pegged at $2 million. So in the event that, what other options exist for if we chose not to go that route as far as selling that subway? What funding sources can we use to fill that gap?
I would say very limited number of possibilities to fund that. Grants would be the only thing I could think of. We
Or
don't
a
have,
bond.
a grant or a bond. We don't have any internal funds that could pay that.
And what are the grants looking like at this point? I mean, we're pretty far down the line for that.
That is a good question. It's the Millspur Road. We'll be looking at some sort of transportation grant, and I don't know. We could find out though.
Yeah, we have some capital. This is Russ. We have capital requests in for help with that from the state legislature, which we've been pretty successful, but that's really the only other grant fund opportunity.
And do we know what the dollar value that it would offset the 2 million in the event we decided to keep that, not sell the subway parcel?
We'll be discussing this a little bit later tonight, and I'll have that information for you at that time.
This is Angie. I think that's kind of the sticking point for me too. And I know I've brought this up before, but I pretty distinctly remember a conversation around utilizing the 1819 South Lake Stevens property for expected police department growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And I don't remember the exact timeline, but I'm wondering if we were to sell that spot, that parcel of land for the downtown revitalization. And then, you know, given the projected growth and annexation, we anticipate we have a need for police department expansion. Is there a plan? And I don't know if this is a question for Russ or the mayor, or maybe for Chief Dyer. Is there a plan for how we would what we would do to manage what space is available for the inevitable need to increase our police department with increased city growth? Sorry, that was kind of a jumbled question, but I think you get my gist.
I was led to believe it was considered for possibly a court here in Lake Stevens, so we'd have our own cases presented here in Lake Stevens. With the growth of our city, it might be a good usage of that space. Although I know we need that money. I get that.
So to talk about a couple of those concerns. So we are looking at the courtroom as part of the civic campus study up there as a multi-use sort of a room at the civic campus area. And I think as far as for future growth, so one of the concerns we have on that 1819 building is being a landlord, and the city's not really set up to be a landlord. And it's difficult to run these leases with our city staff that's running lean. And that's another reason why we would really like to look at offloading this building from a lease standpoint also. And then as far as the growth of the police department, I think that the new home we've built them will take them well into a good 10 years or so. There may be a need down the road, maybe within 5. I think I've talked to the chief about this, and he might correct me if I'm wrong. There might be a need within, say, 5 years to look at some training area. And that's something that we can look at either within their current building that they are reconstructing, or at maybe another facility within the city. But for myself, I would rather not hang on to this building just because of the headaches it creates for the city and the funding that we need to finish up downtown and the economic stimulus that brings us downtown.
Just noticed Chief Dyer turned his camera on. I just wondered if, not to put you on the spot, sir, wondered if there was anything else you would want to add to the conversation.
The discussion had been, keeping in mind anything that I say is from a narrow perspective of the police department. I certainly understand that the city has numerous things that they're working on So anything that I do say is just that narrow thing. There was discussion that that building would be used for the future growth of the police department. And that had been some anticipation as we designed this building, et cetera, et cetera. And at the time, that was the discussion and that was the anticipation. I understand that as things happen, as needs change, and there are other considerations in the city. So that's why I qualify some of what I say it is narrow and based on older information. But the plan that had been the plan when this project was started is that building would be kept in reserve for future growth of the police department.
Chief Dyer, do you have a best guess, given the current size of the new building and your current staff and the projected growth and annexation in Lake Stevens? Is it your sense that the building you're moving into will serve you well for the next 5 to 10 years?
5 years, absolutely. If you start to get into the 10 years, I can use a rough figure to say, and this is a rough figure and it's based on average, so please keep that in mind, is in this state, the average police officer in cities is 1.4 per thousand population. Right now, we're less than 1%, but even using that 1%, if our population gets to 50,000, that would be 50 officers. And on top of that would be other staff. So we'd be up into the neighborhood of 60 employees or even more than that. So in that 10-year time frame, I would certainly anticipate the need for growth of that facility in that time frame.
Okay, Chief, thank you so much. I apologize for putting you on the spot. Thank you for indulging my questions. Appreciate it.
So a question I have about this, and Brett, you brought up the fact that we are not really well set up for doing rentals, being a landlord. But there's a lot of organizations out there in the private sector that are set up to do that we could probably do a pretty small contract with to handle that for us.
It absolutely can. We could do that, and it's something that we've talked about. I suppose the question becomes then how do we finish up downtown?
I totally understand that. I'm just looking at trying to look at all the alternatives of what we're doing. So I understand where Chief Dyer's coming from, looking at what's going on in the expansion of the city. I mean, we're going to talk about something else here coming up where we're going to go to multifamily housing. We're going to increase population with the land that we already have and not expanding that. So, it's when you really start looking at it, and 10 years down the road, we have no buildable land. What are we going to do with an expanding city, staff and police staff? So, yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, but I'm having a hard time reconciling both sides of it. So we definitely need to do some more discussing over this.
Yep. You got any more questions for Josh? Okay, hearing no more questions for Josh, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for public comments from the audience. And what I'll do during this time is I'll look for anybody with the hand raised. And this public hearing portion is specifically towards the property tax levy for 2021 and setting the property tax levy. So does any public member have a comment about that? Raise your hand, say your first name, and I'll call on you. Going one more time. Anybody with public comment on the public tax, on the property tax levy?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody, Mayor.
I'm not seeing anyone either. So with that, I'll go ahead and close the public comments portion of the hearing. Do you have any further comments, Josh, on the property tax levy?
I do not.
And is there any further questions by council on the property tax levy portion? Hearing no comments from the council. Any further discussion or deliberation? And with that, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on ordinance number 1099, public tax levy for 2021, and setting the property tax levy. What's the desire of the council this time?
Move to approve ordinance number 1099, property tax levy for 2021.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1099. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, so bear with me. I'm going to go real quickly through the procedurals on the next two action items. Action item L is ordinance number 1100, declaring a substantial need. And with that, I'll open the public hearing on that. Josh, you have additional staff report for that?
No, it's part of the property tax staff report.
Correct. So with that, are there any additional council questions for staff on declaring a substantial need? Woo, it's getting late.
Well, I would say that based on an earlier discussion we had for the lake level outlet, we do have substantial need for this. So that extra $20,000 would be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to open for public comments just on the ordinance number 1100, declaring a substantial need. Is there anybody with public comments tonight? Raise your hand or say your first name. Hearing none or seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public comments portion of the hearing. Any additional comments by Josh?
Not tonight, thank you.
Any additional questions by the council?
No.
Just to clarify, Mr. Mayor, on the action item, it talks about allowing the city to bank the excess levy capacity for future use. I thought Josh gave a presentation, said we can't do that now. Is that correct?
Yes, we normally you would say it would create bank capacity, but because of the refunds next year, it's likely that we'll have very little, if any, bank capacity.
So is that language in the ordinance then? I don't have that in front of me, the actual ordinance. Is that reference in the ordinance?
The ordinance just authorizes the 1% increase.
It doesn't talk about the banking of the excess.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion or deliberation? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing on ordinance number 1100. And what's the council's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve ordinance number 1100, declaring a substantial need.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And next we'll go to, no, we're good, right?
There's one more.
Oh, yeah, okay. So next we'll go ahead and open the hearing for ordinance number 1101, the 2021 budget. And we've heard the staff report. Do you have anything additional, Josh?
Nope. On this one, they just need looking to just approve the first reading of the ordinance.
Would this, I'm sorry. Would this not be a time for me to put forth adding the $20,000 for the senior center, or no? You tell me.
This is a perfect time to talk about any budget items.
Okay. I would propose that we add that $20,000 for the folks that live here in Lake Stevens. As you know, you've heard me say this over and over. I'm just continuing to say that and hope that we will do so. I think that more than ever, we need to support our seniors. They are the most vulnerable, and as the Council on Aging has said, about 20% of our community would fall into that category, and that they've been doing this ask for some time. I believe it's time to step up and deliver. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Josh?
I'm assuming that that would come out of the general fund.
Yeah, a request like that would be the general fund. And if we're looking to add that, that would be something that we need to have the general consensus. So we're going to add that for the next public hearing.
Okay, so I move that we put that in the budget for the general fund, $20,000 for the senior center.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to add $20,000 for the senior center out of the general fund in the 2020 budget. Any discussion?
That would have been the
2021 budget, correct?
2021 budget, not the 2020 budget.
Oh, I must have slipped off the one there somewhere.
I'm late.
All right, so in the 2021 budget, hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Good job, Mary. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open for public comments on the 2021 budget. Is there anyone with public comments on the 2021 budget? Robin McGee, go ahead.
Actually, it's Earl Gray. I just wanted to make a general comment. Thank you, Council and Mayor. I wanted to, and I don't know if this is the right place, please tell me if it's not, but I've worked for about 35 years for a Fortune 50 who did a lot of public-private partnerships. And they have a place, especially when a city is completely strapped or doesn't have the technology or manpower to do something, but just to finance something, I don't believe there. And I think there's a lot that gets talked about with them, but essentially what it really boils down to is whether you're renting or buying. It's much like renting or buying a house. When you rent a house, you don't have the down payment, but in the end, you don't own anything and you rent forever. Yes, it doesn't cost you as much money going in, but you end up not owning anything either. And so it's not as good a deal. Somebody's making money off this. And, you know, I'm not against people making money, but I am for the city owning property and buildings. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment on the 2021 budget? Seeing no one and hearing no one. Greg, I think we need to leave the public hearing open. Is that correct?
Yes, if you're going to continue it.
No, I'm sorry. This is the first reading. You close the first reading, and then the next one is additional hearing, and you can continue that one if you need to. So you have to have two hearings. So this one's closed. This one you can close.
We have to have it. We have to have a.
That's right. Two public hearings.
Two public hearings.
But the council has to close the first reading, right?
Yes.
Okay, I move to approve the first reading of the budget for 2021.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the first hearing of the 2021 budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, first reading passes. Woo. Council Vice President, I would ask that we push action. We're going to go well over here because we got to get into executive session. I would ask that do we need to knock the multifamily housing out tonight? Sabrina?
It could get pushed, Mayor, to next council meeting for action if that's the council's desire. There's not an imminent timeline on that.
Okay, I would ask that we push that and push the discussion of changing the council time to a later date so that we can move to executive session. Are you okay with that, Gary?
Certainly. Mhm.
Okay, so if I could get a motion to push those two items.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
What are you shaking your head for, Angie?
I don't
And
know.
push
I said
clarification.
aye though. I'm agreeing.
That's
Okay,
a good
so-
technical term, push. We're going to push the meeting.
We're gonna push it.
Push it.
And point of clarification, are we going to set a date certain for those for advertising purposes?
Next meeting.
What's our next meeting? 20.
Our next regular meeting will be the 24th.
24th.
Yeah, let's push it.
How does the agenda look on the 24th besides the budget?
About 5 hours worth, Kim.
Oh, that's all right then. No problem.
I think it can accommodate.
Just don't invite Marcus.
Well,
You can only do it because we're missing one person.
and you know, the other thing we can do is we can also add the change council time to the workshop next Tuesday. And you guys just discuss it and maybe slide it to a consent agenda.
It's a great idea.
Good
Yeah, we
idea.
could do a
Very
consent on
good.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I come up with a good one every once in a while.
Mr. Mayor, since we're at 9 o'clock, do we need a motion to extend our meeting for a half hour?
We're probably going to need to extend it. Kelly, where do you think on executive session side?
I am going to defer to Jean on that. I'm not as familiar with the topics.
So
15 minutes, Mayor, and we can always extend.
well, that collective bargaining is going to take longer than that. Okay, we'll go 15 and we'll extend if we need to. Does that work for you? Okay. All right, so here's how we do it. We have a new way of doing executive sessions.
Mayor, I'm sorry. We have a motion from Councilmember Peter Shagan. Am I correct? For 15 minutes, and then I don't have a second or a vote.
Second.
Well, let's don't go 15 minutes because then we're gonna have to come back in and do another motion.
Okay. You want to amend the motion to 30 minutes extension? Councilmember Peter Shagan?
Just be a motion to extend past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so a motion's on the floor to amend past 9 o'clock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so we have a new way to do breakout rooms. So I'm going to invite you to the executive session. And hold on a second. Make sure we're going to do the first. So we're going to move into executive session. The first is on, we're going to do a discussion on collective bargaining. We're going to do a discussion on property acquisition, and as well as a third discussion on potential litigation. And I'll go ahead and move people over there.
And we may have possible action afterwards.
You may have possible action on property acquisition. I'm going to send you an invite so that when you get that invite, you just join it and you'll go to a separate room.
I'll be here, guys, in the main session, hanging out. So if you have any questions, let me know, or send me a message if you have any issues.
Make sure I got everybody. And the chief. Okay, let's see if this works.
Mary, did you get an invitation on your screen? If you did, go ahead and hit join.
I don't see The invitation, Kelly.
Okay, hold on real quick. Let me have him.
Kelly, this is Julie. I didn't receive it either.
Okay. You know, Julie, I apologize. I may not have had you on the mayor's list, so I'm telling him right now. I wonder if I can do it. I don't think so because I'm not the host. I'll give the mayor a call. Oh, it looks like he's got Jean. All right, I think everybody is in there that needs to be in there. Good evening. Council has requested 5 more minutes on the collective bargaining topic, so they will resume at 9:25. Thank you. Okay, it's 9:25. They are extending collective bargaining topic for another additional 5 minutes until 9:30. Thank you. It's 9:30. The council is extending another 5 minutes till 9:35. The council has requested another 15 minutes to also incorporate the other two topics of potential litigation and property acquisition. So we will extend to 9:52. Hey guys, so company back in the main session.
Everybody left you.
We did. It was very quiet.
Well, since we're recording, I will stay quiet.
Yes, yes, please do. We're still on YouTube and we're still recording. Just want to say welcome back.
Hey, Julie, sup?
Is this a secret head nod that I don't know about?
Oh, just kind of, just kind of that greeting. What's up?
My background is not as cool as yours, Chief, but I tried to do something quick with the logo, but I think it's backwards, isn't it? You're muted, Chief.
Yours is the correct way. Mine looks backwards to me as well.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why that is. Yeah, so yours is correct.
I might do
So nice job.
I might do something cool with my name on it. I don't want to copy you.
Yeah,
but-
like I said, Jeff did that. Jeff did that for me. If you call Jeff, he'd set you up.
All right. It's 9:52 and the council has extended their executive session for 10 more minutes. Thank you. Good evening. It's 10:02. The council's extending 3 more minutes to 10:05. Thank you. Yay, I've got some company again.
Where'd everybody go?
Yeah. It was so quiet for like an hour.
I think this is the longest Lake Stevens council meeting I've attended.
No, we've had one longer.
I think Costco was longer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
It was.
and
No way.
there was another one that was longer.
You know who's missing this right now is Marcus.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's so bummed.
He's watching it on YouTube.
I'm very certain he is not watching.
I know exactly where Marcus is at right now.
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Hey,
He
well,
loves late meetings.
it's been a great meeting. Lots of good stuff done. Great input from this great team. I enjoy working with all of you and your perspectives. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Yes.
adjourn.
Anybody
Second.
in favor?
Councilmember Frederick was the first. Who's the second?
Second.
Mary?
Thank you, Mary.
Anybody not in favor? All right, motion passes. Have a great evening.
Night, everybody.